Hey Font Fam, it's your Font founder Elena. My name is Elena. I'm Font Sound is a social media influencer ministry committed to empowering missionary disciples and subscribe to my channel because I put out weekly reflections every Wednesday as well as videos about music and liturgy and ministry and life. And I am doing a little bit of a preemptive pre-Wednesday video today because I might have overextended myself and may not have time to edit and upload tomorrow. I did film today and it came out really good, but it might not come out on time. So I wanted to do a preemptive video for Wednesday for the 27th Sunday in Ordinary Time to dive into the font. 27th Sunday in Ordinary Time. I'm actually walking over to Acme right now to get myself a Lara bar because I love Lara bars. But this week's gospel is kind of interesting because it talks about divorce. And the way that Jesus talks about it is that, Pharisees ask, and he says, well, if a man divorces his wife, then, and remarries another, he commits adultery. And then when the disciples push him even further, he says, well, even the same is true if a woman divorces her husband and then marries another, it's adultery. But I think there are actually very few real divorces that take place in society like that. I think a lot of the divorces that we know of aren't really divorces at all. There are folks who, for whatever reason, were coerced into marriage, perhaps because there's a child on the way, perhaps they were deceived. They weren't able to consent because they didn't know themselves too well, or they didn't know the other person so well either. And so I think a lot of the divorces that we experience in today's world aren't really divorces at all. They're folks that felt coerced or pressured to get married. Economics is another thing. It's very difficult as a single person for me to get by, especially now that I don't have a consistent cash flow, especially now as I'm self-employed. But the majority of folks, I think, who get divorced are pressured or coerced in one way or another and aren't able to freely consent. And I would even go as far as to say that in a society where there is a wage gap and where most things are priced on two incomes, housing being one of them, that I think it's impossible for somebody to fully consent to marriage because there's always that financial incentive to get married, especially for women. And if that is true, then in some way there is some deception, and so it makes it difficult for the man to consent as well, because if the woman doesn't know, is even on an unconscious level aware that there's a financial incentive, financial stability in marriage, then is it possible, then the man is somewhat deceived if the man's not aware of that as well. So I think that it's impossible for anybody to fully consent. We do our best. And so I think that a lot of the divorces that take place aren't really divorces at all, but marriages that never were. That there was some sense of coercion, pressure, limits on the ability of one party or both parties to consent. And in some cases there's some deception as well, intentional deception. Sometimes there's somebody who's just kind of going along for the ride because, well, that's what you do. They'll say that they consent, but do they really agree to all the things that they're consenting to at the altar? Who knows? But that's kind of part of it. But I wanted to talk on a broader level about commitment, because marriage is commitment, and I think that in a mega sense, a meta sense, Jesus is also saying that there's serious consequences, or it's serious to break a commitment. And I wanted to use this metaphor because this is a time of year when folks find themselves overwhelmed. I know I do, and I'm not even working full time. I feel like there's just something going on all the time. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who was feeling overwhelmed, and another friend who's feeling overwhelmed, and this is a lot going on. If there's kids in school, there's a lot of sign-ups for activities are starting, there's meetings, If that's not going on, there might be things getting started at your church or in your community or fundraisers. Maybe plans are being made for the holidays, for Thanksgiving. Who knows what's going on, but this is the time of year when folks make commitments and then we find ourselves 3 or 4 months later, or even less than that, a week or 2 later, hyperextended. So this is the metaphor that I'll give. I talk about my car a lot, and it is difficult for me to park. For some reason, I think because of where my line of sight falls, it's difficult for me to pull into a parking spot. And it's also, just pull nose in and get right up to the line. I'm always afraid of crunching my front bumper. And then backing out of a parking spot is also a challenge. How do I function as an adult? I don't know. But this is to say what? Ooh, this is a cool bench from collecting grocery bags. I just walked from all the way over the other side of Beckett Road. So it's like a half mile. Because sometimes it is easier to pass a convenient parking spot, move on, walk a little bit of a distance, than it is to park in a tight spot, back out nervously, dent our rear bumper, dent somebody else's car. There's more damage to be done in backing out than there is to be in moving on or passing on or taking a slightly more inconvenient approach to life. There's more damage to be done in backing out of something than there is in moving on. And I'll say that again. There's more damage to be done in backing out than there is in moving on when we're not sure. There's more damage to be done in backing out than there is in moving on, passing up, looking for something better. And this goes in every aspect of life. It might be an opportunity to get married, but are you fully in love with that person? Well, think about the collateral damage done in a divorce. Divorce is so difficult. I know so many folks that are divorced. And again, I don't think most divorces are actually divorces. I think they're marriages that never were. But there's still damage done at the end of a marriage. There's still damage done at the end of a commitment. There's still damage done in these moments. And there's damage done in pulling out of a parking spot and we're not really sure we're going to fit or not. Not really sure how the other person is going to pull in behind us, or the person in front of us is going to pull out, or, is there going to be a car coming? So sometimes it's better to move on than to take the risk. And sometimes it's better to pass up on an opportunity, a convenient opportunity, even though there's going to be challenges. The parking spot might be very convenient, right in front of the place, the business or the store or the house or whatever. It might be a convenient parking spot, and a more comfortable spot, a safer spot might be at a distance. But sometimes it's better to do that. So that's my spin on this week's gospel. I hope that brings some light to your life, or maybe gives you some affirmation. There might be a job opportunity, or it might be the opportunity to sign up for a certain team or certain activity. There's pressure to go for that. It might feel convenient. It might be great because it gets the kids out of the house, or because it's cheap, or because it's free and it's offered in the community. But then that overwhelming feeling, and I'm just thinking about my friends who are parents right now, especially, how overwhelming it is to have to go to all these different activities and being all over the place. And sometimes that can be rough. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. I used to have a teacher that used to say that maturity is a sense of when to say yes and when to say no. And sometimes we have a faith that's a yes faith, that everything is founded on a yes. But sometimes it's okay to say no, because in saying no to one thing, we're saying yes to 15 others. So this is a time to think about that. And I would say, go deep in your heart, and next time you're faced with the opportunity to commit yourself to something, maybe to ask yourself, what am I getting myself into? What am I getting myself into? And I think that if we take an honest look at that, an honest look at that question. Hey there, that's okay, no, you're good. I think if we take an honest look at that question and ask, what am I getting myself into, there'd be a lot less people in the world scratching their heads, ripping their hair out in desperation, asking, what have I gotten myself into? So take that for what it's worth. Thank you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to the Font Sound channel, and I bid you peace. See you in the next one. Bye!